This is Mega Man Battle Network for the Game Boy Advance. It was released in 2001 and has some very specific ideas about the internet. With me, once again, is Lokamasi.
Hello, it's me, Pfeffer's boyfriend.
So, we have one hell of a cold open, in that it literally doesn't tell you anything at all about who we are and what we're doing. But we do know that crime is on the rise.
Specifically WWW crime.
So fun fact, I believe it's actually pronounced World 3, but yeah, who's ever gonna call it that? It's WWW.
Double, that's like 8.
You know, it's the Kamen Rider crossover between double and O's, but like, more so.
I was gonna say it's the movie where they got 3 versions of double so they could have the 3 most common versions of double on screen at once at the same time.
Alright, so this is Lan. All we know about him right now is that he likes sleeping in, so very relatable child. This is his NetNavi Mega Man. Alright, so it's menu time. We're gonna start with the folder. This is all meaningless at the moment because we don't know how fighting works. We will soon enough, so we'll discuss all of this stuff a little more later on. For the time being, I guess we could just, start off with what we know about the Battle Network series. So, I personally, started in the latter half of the Battle Network series. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I played 4 and I liked it. So that's where I started with that whole thing. And then, I played 5, and then 6. And then Star Force happened after that, and I caught up with all that. What about you, Loka?
I played Star Force to completion years ago. Didn't even realize there were sequels until years after they came out. But Mega Man Battle Network was the first Mega Man series I was aware of.
I forget if that's true, but it's one of the earlier ones I played, so...
Right, but I didn't even realize there was a platformer game of Mega Man for a very long time.
Whoa, you mean there are games where all he's got to do is jump and shoot? Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so yeah, we've been through all the menu stuff. Network, of course, is, cable link stuff. We're not going to get into that. We can save, and return is just exiting the menu. Fun fact, Lan has a Mega Man Legends poster right there. Kinda hard to tell. It's mostly pixels, but it's there.
Oh god, I thought that was like a Dragon Quest thing. That looks like a hero with a cape.
I literally cannot tell what is behind Mega Man Volnut. I think that's data to the side of him, though, so
cape.
Just know that there is a dancing monkey right next to him.
Also, that computer's key looks like teeth.
Well, that's horrifying.
I keep thinking it's a face with 4 eyes, but the eyes keep blinking in weird patterns.
Hey, Lan, I'm your computer! Alright, so,
no.
Here's our TV over there, and yes, indeed, Dog No. This is the best commercial. Dog No.
Oh, there's no jack for it. How are we gonna have our jacking break?
So here's Lan's mom. She is the housewife. And also, she made breakfast, and if you eat the breakfast, we get a chip for Recover 10A. Again, completely meaningless because we don't know how the battle system works.
And I would have missed that. I was very bad at RPGs as a child. So you're supposed to talk to everyone? That sounds lame.
Your mother told you to eat breakfast and you would just skip it. How could you?
Both of you just might even talk to Mother.
Well, you can't avoid talking to Mail. Mail is Lan's next door neighbor, and unfortunately for some reason, she puts up with his shit all the time.
Wait, do they have multiple doghouses? Or...
Yes, actually. That one in the back is a different one that we can't see from this angle.
Okay, I thought they just really screwed up some perspectives. Oh no!
People's ovens have been wrapping all out of no. Oh no, we're talking about literal fire. Oh no.
This is why the Internet of Things is bullshit. Oh, I'll put my oven on the internet. Oh, no, it's on fire because someone hacked it and turned it on.
Hacker voice, I'm in, and I'm making chicken nuggets.
I'll have to give that one Tumblr post of Randy your sticks. Guys, we're just gonna hack into Randy's oven and turn it off. It's fine.
By the way, you might notice that this girl has a portrait. That's because this is Yai. She's a rich girl, and I guess our friends? She's telling us what pets are. They're basically cell phones, you know, more modern cell phones. They are actually pretty smartphone-like. But also, they've got cool Navi programs, which is basically just, hey, you've got a person living in your phone, they do shit for you. It was a really neat idea back in the day, and everybody raise your hands if you absolutely did and would still love a NetNavi. Raising my hand. It was wild!
Screaming out DMX lyrics.
I love the casual talk about, hey, you hear about that evil organization trying to take over the world? Crazy, right?
It's just how kids talk.
Alright, and this right here is Dex. I think he's not supposed to be our friend. I think he's a bully. The anime is actually a lot more clear about this. Also, here's Yai, she's a fucking cop, I guess, but then again, she is a rich girl, so that's not surprising. Anyway, like, one of the first shots of the anime is, like, Dex just absolutely decimating Land's generic Navi in battle. So in the beginning, he is set up to be more of a bully character, whereas here, he just wants to fight us?
He's our anime rival. Yeah, a lot of kids' media is weird about bullies. We'll just have the bully character also be part of the friend group. It's like, you can have a mean friend, but that's different from a bully.
Yeah. So Dex here has Gutsman. Dun-na.
Don't they give a shit?
Dex just fucking leaps over his desk and just goes right for Land.
Whoa, hey! Not in public.
The word in is there. It's different.
They just forgot the G's. Fine.
Alright, so today's class is the tutorial. If you've played a Battle Network game, you would probably prefer to skip Virus Busting 101, but we're taking it anyway.
And kind of digging how cold this open is.
Yeah, like, I guess you don't really need to know that much information. It's the cyber future, everything's connected to the internet. We've got Navis, they're neat.
A good way to make a simple story more compelling is to just hide a bunch of shit from the audience that the characters already know.
Yeah, pretty much.
And trickle it out bit by bit. Like, you can't start this the way you could start a normal Mega Man game just because it's JRPG adjacent now, but they're doing a very good job of getting close.
The tutorial may be a little more jarring compared to how the rest is presented.
Well, they have to tell you how to play, otherwise you're gonna get mad and blame the game.
So yes, Mega Man Battle Network. Its battle system at the start gives you chips to choose from. Since this is the tutorial, we get set chips, but normally you get a random selection based on what you have in your folder, which I showed off earlier. In battle, you can freely move around the red area. So normally you have a 3x3 grid, as does the enemy. Again, you can move wherever you want within that, and there are actually ways to get more ground, but we'll cover that later. For the time being, we shouldn't need that, because we've got two cannons. Cannons are extremely basic chips. You press A, they fire, and they hit for, coincidentally, the exact amount of HP that Matars have. Also, fun fact, these enemies, of course, are normally called Matools in the proper Mega Man games. They are, common enemies, very standard ever since the first Mega Man. But I did think for years that they were called Matars because of the Battle Network series, even though normally they go by Matool.
In fact, I thought she called them the tools earlier.
Yeah, so I think they might have just been going by, like, it might be a weird translation thing. I forget when the standard comes in, but they will eventually be known as Matars instead.
Okay, maybe the tutorial program is called Matool.exe, but the viruses are Matars.
Even in the cyber future, school budgets are just garbage. And here I thought this was a fairly optimistic game.
Oh my god, I've suddenly forgotten every weird mistranslation in Super Mario RPG. My favorite being, every boo in that game was called the Big Boo, even though they were all just normal-sized boos.
I learned recently that apparently in the Game Boy Advance version of Tales of Fantasia, they translated Ragnarok as giraffe. Which rules.
It's kangaroo.
Yeah, kangaroo.
Because they have K's and R's in them. That's how you remember.
Alright, so, as this tutorial has pointed out, there are two different ways to select chips. You can't just select all of them that are in your starting folder willy-nilly. You either need to choose all of the same type of chips, for example, we selected two cannons in the first battle, or if they have the same code, you're able to select them. So here we have an area grab chip, which eventually we'll be able to use. So Steel here steals a row of, or a column rather, of the enemy's territory, which makes that sword a lot more useful. Swords are close range, meaning they only attack in front of Mega Man. There is the normal sword, and there's the wide sword. Sword is just, it literally only attacks the panel in front of you, so it's fairly limited use if you don't use it with anything else, and if the enemy doesn't go up to you, it's useless. Wide sword will at least attack the entire column, which again, as the tutorial pointed out, works very well with the steel chip, since that means the range of sword you get is a lot better, far easier to sword. This part of the tutorial you might not recognize as much if you've played later Battle Network games, because they really change how this works in later installments. Because this is honestly not really fun at all. So, if you don't like the hand you're given at the start of a fight, you can select the Add option at the bottom. This means you will fight a round without having any battle chips. Of course, you can use the B button for the Mega Buster, but as you can see, it's not really doing much damage, even to Matars.
All you gotta do is move and shoot.
This time around, we at least get 3 swords, but that guy in the back isn't gonna move forward, so... sigh. This is a little less scripted than the rest of the fights, because you can just get a lot of different things in, that second round. And as you might have noticed, the add function only gives you an extra line of chips to choose from for a single turn. Again, you can use it a second time to get 3 rows, but that'll disappear if you use any chips without the add command. It gets very refined in later games, trust me.
I say that doesn't sound useful at all.
Yeah, it can have its uses, but it's a little awkward. So we've got an optional boss right here, which is going to be difficult because our starting chips are garbage. So this is GutsMan. He's got a pretty simple pattern. Usually sticks around in the back. He will attack in a wave pattern. But every few turns he will do this, which cracks the tiles. Now, a cracked tile, if you move over it, will break and you temporarily can't move over it. They will reform eventually, but we didn't need to wait for that. In addition, a broken tile does actually protect you from GutsMan's wave attack, so he does actually give you a bit of an advantage. So this is Lan's dad. We're not going to be meeting him yet, but we will get mail from him. He would like to give us a power-up program, but alas, he can't just send it. But certainly we'll see him soon enough, right?
I'm sorry, if I get an email from anyone and the subject line is power up, I'm not reading that.
But it's from Dad.
Even more suspicious. He doesn't know what power up means.
Look, power up is his focus. He has an entire job based on powering up. Aw, well, gotta ask this old man where we are, even though we know, but we need to give him peace of mind.
ACDC town. Just got back in black, air blaring.
The science term, the science term! Yeah, he just repeats what she said in class, so, yeah. She did actually skip a grade, that's why she is tiny.
Nerd.
Oh no. Is it this doorless house right here? Did you seal off the fire? Is that what's going on?
I feel like that woman's character design is in every JRPG ever.
It's a good mom design.
Yeah. This guy looks like a one-off character in an anime, like they're super important for this one episode and then they're gone forever.
He doesn't die in the episode or anything, he's just not important past that episode.
For some reason, I'm just thinking of like the main character's parents in Digimon. They each had like an episode they were important, and then they were just gone.
Kid over there is having fun.
It's like a cool place to build a fort, or just freak the fuck out.
That's just me.
Oh my god!
Anytime I hear AC/DC's theme. Anyway, yeah, here's this kid's design. His head is gigantic.
Hey, wait a second, I remember you. I think we met your brother across the street.
Here's the squirrel statue, a mainstay of AC/DC Town.
The most important statue I've ever seen.
It's great.
Replace every Confederate statue with that squirrel.
The world would be a better place instantly.
What a fucking sad sack would you have to be upset about?
To be honest, yes. We're not getting super into battling just yet, but to answer that old lady's question, typically you do want to have fewer chip codes, just because that means you can use more chips at a time. But that doesn't mean you want all of the same code. There are advantages to having even the same kind of chip with different codes, but we'll explain that later. So, this doghouse is connected to the internet. And here we should meet a very important character. There he is! It's Mr. Prog! Mr. Progs are basically like minions, but not terrible. You just look at them and you're filled with joy. Mr. Progs run everything.
I actually kind of like this idea as a security system.
Alright, so I guess we'll be showing off Mini Bomb this time around. Mini Bomb is a bomb thrown 3 spaces away, so, you know, you kind of need to have a specific range for it, but it's very strong. Oh, right there! There's the escape chip. Terrible thing about this game, escaping is a specific chip that you have to put in your folder if you ever want to run from a fight. Later games make it so you can just run without the chip, because what a horrible idea! I will be removing it from my folder as soon as possible, but oh man.
Oh. There are a lot of weird escape mechanics. In the first Steven Universe RPG, Attack the Light, you have to level Steven up and have him learn the escape technique.
Ugh.
Before you can escape. And then it costs 4 AP to use, and you get 5 AP every turn.
So here's this very trustworthy repairman here. What needs repairing? I don't know.
Yep, he did it. He's doing viruses. He's the villain. He's the bad guy. Look at that beard.
Well, I'm sure you only knew that because you looked at the TV and saw the dog no. Dog's onto this guy's business.
We don't even have a dog. We just have 2 dog houses.
He's even cackling to himself evilly. Alright, so I guess we're just gonna let this guy putz around for a bit, so... let's log into our computer. Alright, welcome to Land's desktop. The background is soccer balls. And from here, we can go to... the internet! Behold! This is the future where GeoCities prospered. So here's Glide. While Dex had GutsMan, who of course is a robot master from Mega Man 1, Glide, on the other hand, isn't even from the classic series. He is actually from the PS1 Mega Man Legends games. Well, actually, technically, he's in Misadventures of Tron Bonne and Mega Man Legends 2. He wasn't in the first game, but yeah, he was a villain in those games. But he's a good guy here, at least. He is more or less a butler, so make of that what you will. Alright, so here's our first proper battle on the net, and boy, are my chips terrible. So yeah, Matool's pretty simple enemy. God, now they've got me doing it. Only one Matar will move at a time. They will basically follow you vertically rather, and if they move in front of you for long enough, they will slam the ground with their pickaxe, which will cause a wave that moves very slowly. It is really easy to dodge. You shouldn't have too much trouble with them. And now that we're on the internet, not doing tutorial or boss fights, we get rewards for doing battles. I'm going to put the Metguard chip in the folder, and we'll see if that comes up later. We can sort our chips any way we want, and God, it's so helpful to do so. Let's sort by ID, because ID is probably the closest to my own sensibilities in ordering chips. And we've got a new enemy. This is Fishy. So Fishies are similar to Matars in that they will basically move up and down. However, they don't necessarily track Mega Man actively, but when they move in front of them, they'll dash towards him. But that was his undoing because I had a close range chip, and I was fast enough to use it. So the dash chip, again, we'll hopefully be seeing that later. It's got a G code, so it's going to be a little weird with the rest of the chips we have. Here's some great enemies. So these guys are called Canodomes. So we didn't really get to see what they do at all, but they provide our cannon chips, which is neat. By the way, at the end, we do have a specific busting level, which ranges from 1 to 10 and S. S, of course, being the best. Gonna interrupt myself real quick to say, that's Metgard in this game. Metgard kind of sucks. Thankfully, Matars also give us the Shockwave chip, which is a lot better. Bit of a weird code yet again, being K, but I'm gonna have a lot of those because they're pretty good basic attacks, much like Cannon. Now we have enemies working together, and oh my god, this is the worst. So yeah, the shotgun and crossgun chips, I keep talking about how I don't like them. They're pretty good in that they do show off sort of, like, good ways to hit enemies, or like multiple enemies at once. They're very positional based, as a lot of chips are, like the mini-bomb requires you to be standing on a specific spot to hit a specific target. These chips are, you know, a little more lenient. Shotgun will hit an enemy and then hit whatever's behind it. Crossgun will do something similar, but it will explode in an X pattern, so it'll hit the diagonals to whatever you hits. The problem is they're just such weak chips that, like, you're not really going to do much with them unless you get a whole lot of them in a single hand. And they don't really have upgrades. Cannon has an upgraded version, but yeah, Crossgun and the like doesn't really get much. Here's the dash chip. It just dashes right to the end of a line. It's real good. Damage could be better, but it's not Crossgun or Shotgun. I also interrupted myself earlier. The busting rank is kind of rude, and it will be for the entire series. You need to complete battles as quickly as possible without getting hit to get a high rank. Of course, harder enemies it'll be a little more lenient, but overall, it's not super lenient. Alright, so we're going to not really buy anything. The power-up would be useful, but it's too expensive. Cannon C is potentially useful for reasons. Oh no! So here's the lost program we wanted to find. Alright, so now we have to go find Yai's computer. But first, what's this? Well, we don't know, because we don't have the address, unlike with Yai. And over here, apparently Dex just sectioned off an entire piece of the internet? I don't know if that's allowed. I feel like we should report him. But yeah, that's just a arbitrary gate that we'll need to unlock later. Well, it's not super arbitrary, it's important. It sucks that we can't get through there now. Alright, so this right here is Yai's computer, and since we have @Yai, we can enter it. So, this is her personal computer, meaning, like with Lan's computer, if we find her computer in real life, we can just enter the internet through here. And thankfully Glide's at the beginning, because Yai might have the worst computer on the face of the earth. We get Spreader Eye, which is like Shotgun or Crossgun in that it's low power, but also it just hits in a box, which is nice. So yeah, here it is. You never want to log on through Yai's computer because it sucks. We get Recover 30L, which is a better recovery chip. Recovery chips you'll probably want to keep, but they're less useful in Battle Network 1 because you actually typically heal at the end of every fight, just automatically, so if you're like me and not planning on getting hit a lot, don't really bother with healing chips. And later games you're gonna want them for certain though, because otherwise you might not make it to the end of a trek through the internet if you're not careful. Alright, and here is the last battle of the episode. So yeah, basic enemies, but I do really appreciate how they work really well together to really introduce just how much you're going to want to be moving around for these fights, because all of these enemies are based on position. They will attack you when you cross in front of them. Oh, and since I didn't explain it properly before because I kind of just completely wrecked the previous Canadums, yes, they have that little marker. If it touches you, then they fire. Otherwise, they'll never hit you, so they probably won't. And this is where we would leave the computer if we logged in through it, so that's it for this episode of Mega Man Battle Network. And there it is, that's the cyber future. It's what everything's gonna be like.